I'm basically positioning why this is a good fit for those pain points that you have. We have to make sure that these companies understand the impact. It's pretty mind blowing.
I want to discuss Copilot with you, but really just narrowing down into Microsoft Copilot Studio.
The configuration went from kind of super hard to so easy, from having very limited features to what it is now.
What do you think Copilot looks like a year, year and a half, 2 years from now?
Our whole mindset needs to change. The way that we work is going to change. And that's also going to take a little bit of time. All of the things that they're doing in the roadmap is just super exciting.
You're having these conversations with the customers, right, of the business value that it's going to bring. How are these measurable return on investment conversations going?
After having done this now for 13 years, I now realize that
Hey, welcome to this week's episodes of Power Talks. My name is Griffin, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and today I am joined by a special guest, Dian Taylor. Now, Dian is a pre-sales director at RSM, which is a professional services provider, including IT solution development and IT consulting. Dian has a knack for leveraging her experience on Microsoft Dynamics 365 pre-sales engagements, D365 implementations, and customer training. Also, as a Microsoft MVP, she has a blog and YouTube channel where she loves to share her expertise and her passions for Microsoft Copilot Studio and the Microsoft Dynamics CRM suite. Dian, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Griffin. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. I obviously have enjoyed speaking to all of my guests, but I will admit, I reach out to people through LinkedIn and different things, and I want to say respectfully, you were a little intimidating to reach out to because you got quite a following and everything on LinkedIn, and you're laughing at me. But I knew you'd be super personal, and just getting to know you, it's been great, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. Something that comes up in every conversation I feel like I have on these is Copilot and how it impacts businesses. And I want to discuss Copilot with you, but not so much in a sense of, generative AI, buzzword, Copilot, but really just narrowing down into Microsoft Copilot Studio. Now, I'm going to assume that people know what Microsoft Copilot Studio is if they're listening to this, but, why is it that you're so passionate about Microsoft Copilot Studio, and maybe why you've kind of niched in a way, and not entirely, but you kind of
it's my side project, right?
You're a Copilot Studio expert. Why has this kind of fallen into your lap?
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I remember it came out first as Power Virtual Agents, right? Which is the chat bot that you could put on your website for your customers to interact with. And just to explain real quick, so Copilot or Power Virtual Agents was where you could build that custom virtual agent, right? So I remember one of my partners reaching out like, hey, did you see this? Microsoft launched this 2 days ago. And I was like, oh, no, I haven't seen it. Let me read it real quick. He goes like, okay, great. So we're doing a demo in like next week in like 5 days. So I was like, okay. Sure. And I really, really liked it. If you kind of look back now, because I think they said it's been 4 years now, ever since PVA came out. Maybe it's even 5 years. I don't know. But I was like, to me, it felt like it was like a year ago or something. And I think it's also because it just really went from having very limited features to what it is now, right? Where you're basically using a lot of AI type of capabilities in your chatbot. So whether or not that's an internal facing or an external facing chatbot, the configuration went from kind of super hard. You had to do a lot. You have to build out all of your conversation paths to so easy, right? Now, for example, you can just point it to your website as a knowledge base almost, right? And ask questions. Your customers can then ask questions and it will just look at the website and use that as a source to answer those questions. So you can see that you can really get up and running really, really quickly. I I mean, I've seen stuff like that obviously on other people's websites, like a chatbot, and I've interacted with chatbots. I'm sure all of we had, right? There's something wrong with something you bought. You go to the website, you go and you chat. But to actually kind of realize what's happening under the covers and how you can build that without using code, that's really right what Microsoft's kind of doing with the Power Platform altogether. But that really yeah, intrigued me, so to speak, right? To kind of see, like, oh my goodness, I can just go ahead and configure these things again without the use of code. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm super passionate about. It needs to be easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do
Yeah.
you know I when I talk to, my friends outside of work, whatever, and I tell them that I'm building a custom chat GPT for a company, they like it's like they think it's amazing, like I'm just the smartest person. And I'm like, "No, it's actually not that complex. It sounds a lot cooler than it is." But
Yeah, don't
the,
say that. Don't say that.
you know,
Let them think that you're like super. I do the
uh-huh.
same thing with my mom. My mom thinks like I'm super smart. I'm some sort of like software developer. And I'm like, sure, that's what I
Yeah.
do. I write code. Uh-huh,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because and it's because I didn't necessarily have a ton of experience with Power Virtual Agents. I was aware of what it was, but I hadn't actually been a part of an implementation where we had fully developed one and deployed it and it was used. But like before, and as you were kind of mentioning, you had to maybe outline, oh, this is a potential question and this is going to be the answer. This is a potential question, this is going to be the
Yep.
answer, and kind of outline all of these. I mean, would you call them topics? All these different,
Possibilities, basically,
topics,
right? Yeah.
possibilities, right? That this bot would need to be able to potentially answer. And then if it doesn't necessarily meet one of those, it's like, oh, I don't know, or or
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
call this person. Right?
Yeah, or I'm going to now escalate that to an agent. And then again, like you're saying, if you're not having every possible question in there that that customer could ask, then it's still going to go to the agent, right? So it's kind
Yeah,
of defeating the purpose of the whole thing of deflecting, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and now you can just create. You can tell it, hey, here's this document, or here's a folder on our company's SharePoint, or here's yada yada, and it can just understand all of the information in that and all of the potential questions that relate to the content there and pull all that out. So I think that's super interesting. But I have a question for you. And so you kind of alluded to this talking about when you were internal and external, uses for it.
Yeah.
I mean, why is it important for businesses to see how Copilot can impact or improve their business, and specifically both internally and externally?
I think in order for, both of us, because we're both consulting basically in the same world, right? So for us to really sell our services, we need to really get that across. Like how is Copilot or basically any tool currently that's out there, how can it impact your business? In regards to like saving time, right? If you can use a chatbot to deflect those conversations so that can be resolved and answered by a co-pilot, now you don't have to hire as many agents, right? So that's going to be in your pocket right there. The other thing is that when we're looking at internal facing chatbots, and those could be custom built chatbots like an HR chatbot, right? Where I have a question about how many vacation days do I get if I work here 5 years? I don't know. And I just go on Teams and I chat, right, the chatbot answers my questions. Again, I'm taking the pressure off an internal department. Again, it's going to save me money because I don't have to hire as many HR people. Also, when we're talking about some of the existing co-pilots that you can extend, right, with Copilot Studio, such as Copilot for Sales or Copilot for Service, right? Copilot that actually sits inside of Dynamics 365 customer service, for example, right? We can extend that today as well. Those are tools that allow you, for example, to be on a chat with somebody, right? So you're just chatting with that person. You might not know exactly the answer to the issue that they're facing, And then you can just ask Copilot, basically give Copilot access to that conversation, and it will go through the knowledge sources that you have configured for it, right? And give you that answer to that question again by using AI for that as well. I think, like I said, we have to make sure that these companies, these organizations understand the impact of that. And if you're actually looking at, and I think Satya actually was talking about this during build as well, like they're using this in their own call centers. And if you're looking at like how much faster their call centers, their agents have become just by utilizing, right, those types of tools, then it's pretty mind blowing, right? Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I think one super like I think one that example that in my opinion just brings a ton of clear business value is if there's people in your if there's users in your system that have to navigate to different maybe databases or different systems. Like say you store information in Dataverse, but you also store information in a ERP software,
Yep.
or different things. And so now, as say a customer service rep, I need to bounce back and forth, and oh, I need to log in. Oh, I need to authenticate. Okay, now I need to search for this, whatever. Where then I need to copy that, paste it over
Yep.
here, compare it into the SharePoint, and then now link all this stuff and write it out in a case. Where if you can just extend a copilot within customer service or within one interface, then all that time that's spent searching all these other different things can all just be answered directly within that copilot. So I see that as a
Absolutely.
way of like taking case resolution times from 45 minutes to 6 minutes, like just
Yeah.
from a copilot conversation. I wanted to ask you because I think specifically how you're on the pre-sales side of the house. I think it's super interesting, and that's different than most of the guests I've had on the show because we're kind of on the delivery side
Oh, I've done
myself.
that too. And after
And
5 years, I was like, I need to get the heck out of here.
I'm sure. I'm only 2 years in there, so I'm not there yet.
Give it some time
Um,
though.
but yeah, yeah, give you some time. That's right. But nonetheless, how how are these measurable return on investment conversations going for you of in kind of these pre-sales conversations when you're demoing it and you're having these conversations with the customers, right? Of the business value that it's going to bring. I guess what's just your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's I think the most important thing and the most often I see that this actually goes wrong when people step into the role as a pre-sales person, and I was one of them as well, by the way, that did the same thing, is that in the beginning, if you're not basically educated on this, then your thought process, at least my thought process was, I need to show as many features as I can in the time that I have allotted to do this demo, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Obviously, that's not what you want to do. So after having done this now for 13 years, I now realize that when you're doing a pre-sales demo, the goal is not to show everything that is available in the application, right? Because people are just going to be overwhelmed. Just so the most important thing is to first of all have a discovery call. Even though we're not implementing, we still need to do a discovery of why are they looking at another software, what are their problems, what are their pain points, what are their nice to haves, but also understanding what they're doing. Like if I'm doing a sales demo, how do you sell? Who do you sell to? What are your processes? What are the relationships that you're tracking? And then what I do is I really configure the demo with their data, but most importantly, with what they want to see. Because if I'm showing them all the bells and whistles that are not applicable at that particular point in time, then you're losing already, right? And that's also when I am not talking about like, look how cool a feature this is. No, I'm talking about, look, you told me that you guys are pulling reports out of your SQL server or out of your Excel spreadsheet and you're putting them together, and it takes a lot of time. Plus, a lot of times there's inconsistencies because there's 5 different versions floating around. With this tool, you can, for example, set up an Excel, one of those pre-configured templates that already have your pivot tables and your pivot charts in there. You press this button and it pushes the information in there. So first of all, Now I'm going from creating a report that used to take me 3 hours to 1 hour, and there's no inconsistencies because it's all based on the data inside of Dynamics. So you're really talking to them about like what you were saying as well. I'm basically positioning why this is a good fit for those pain points that you have. And again, I want to do it that way versus showing everything that's available, because if you're going to buy a car and you want a car that fits your kid, that has enough space for your kids, and you go to a car shop and the guy's pitching you about this Ferrari that's a two-seater and this other one and the other one and the other one, and none of them are what you're looking for, right? Then you're going to be overwhelmed because you saw 20 cars and you still don't know which one to buy because none of them really fit what you were looking for, right? So I think selecting a CRM system or any type of system is kind of similar to that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Are there certain features, certain capabilities, certain things that you find yourself regularly demoing over and over? Like, are there themes that businesses or themes
Yes.
to needs or questions that businesses have that you find yourself regularly answering in regards to Copilot Studio and
Well,
Copilot?
I see a lot of when I'm talking about just regular doing demos that everybody is interested in like the integrated product itself, right? When we're talking about CRM, Dynamics 365, sales or customer service or any of those, being able to showcase the integration that we have with like the other products, like Teams being embedded, being able to pull data into Excel, being able to show off the Outlook integration. That's usually what everybody wants to see. For Copilot, or maybe I should say for customer service, there is not an instance when I'm not demoing some sort of Copilot. Either Copilot facing, that's on your website, it's facing your external customers, or Copilot inside of Dynamics 365, whether that be sales or customer service, right? Allowing us to ask questions, where it's looking at our knowledge content or external knowledge content or website or wherever that's coming from. um, yeah, and like I said, also if you look inside of Dynamics 365 Sales and that embedded Copilot as well, by just asking like, hey, what has changed on my sales records? Soon as you show that, people are just like, wow. And some people are like, wow, I don't want this. Because as soon as they hear the word AI, they're like, oh no, it's way too early. I don't want that. It's like, let's not do that. So that's also an important thing to kind of touch upon during discovery, right? When if you're talking to people that are not interested in AI or scared of AI, because there's a lot of them out there as well, then you probably shouldn't demo AI, right?
If you are thinking to yourself that you want to get into low code development or learn about the Power Platform, then I want to personally invite you to sign up for this completely free self-paced course that is going to cover everything you need to know to begin low code development today. Not too long ago, I was a complete beginner and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what the Power Platform was. But in just 2 years, I have gone from being an associate to a senior level consultant, and I can truly say that I love what I do. The content in this course is handpicked by me so you can understand the basics of the Power Platform and ultimately be prepared to take the PL 900 certification if that's something you're interested in. If you are interested, be sure to follow the first link in the description down below, and do not forget to use the promo code YouTube at checkout in order to get the course for completely free. This is going to give you immediate access to the entire course so that you can start to change your future today. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah, I think that there's probably people on both sides of the spectrum in the sense of businesses that are probably too scared of AI and probably, need to be pulled along a little bit, and some businesses that are too gung ho of like,
Yeah,
yes, this is gonna
give
fix
me everything.
everything. Yes. When they really shouldn't implement it because maybe security or whatever. And so I think that's pretty interesting, and how you have that. Oftentimes you have to really read the room, right, and talk about that. And I think that the two dynamics integrated copilots that you've been talking about, the one for D365 sales and the other for D365 customer service, I think these The sales, more in particular, at this point in time of recording, right, has a lot of really cool capabilities. Like you're saying, the recent changes on records, or to summarize records, or meeting summaries, or like meeting notes, or and different things. And I think customer service as well, in just kind of the roadmap, and kind of what we can expect to come from that and everything. And so I think it's super cool in just how, yeah, Microsoft is positioning it in a way where it's almost plug and play. Like if you use D365 customer service, it's just go into the admin center and check this box, and
It's
boom, it's
so
going to pop
easy.
up and it's going to
Yeah.
be right there for you to use. And now how with Copilot Studio, you mentioned this earlier, extend the capabilities of those. So obviously there's some out of the box capabilities, but you can also add some custom capabilities. Like say you wanted it to connect to your ERP system, using the example I guess we had touched on
Yep.
earlier.
Or even
I was
connect it to Dataverse and do some. I actually did a video on that as well. Obviously, depending on what type of extension you're going to do, there are going to be some limitations. Right? So if you're using, for example, a prompt plugin, then you're going to be limited to, like, I think it's like about like 1,000 records, because the way it works is that it's basically when the query is happening, when that question is asked, that what it does is it grabs the first 1,000 records it gets, and then hands it over to the LLM and says, search this data, or get use this to find the answer. So you can't obviously grab somebody's entire database and say, so those are just some of the limitations that, not everybody is aware of. I wasn't really aware of that either when I recorded my video. Now I'm aware of it because I was talking. I'm actually doing a session with Scott Durow during Microsoft, or it's now called Power Platform Community Conference in, what is it? It is in September. So we were going over all these different things that are part of that, but it's kind of, yeah, you have to kind of pick and choose to decide, like, how am I going to extend that, right, to make sure that you're actually picking the correct ones as well. But yeah, I mean, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for like a year and a half from now, because I know that, it's just all of the things that they're doing in the roadmap is just super exciting of, where they're going with this. But I think also when we're pitching to our customers, I think the main thing that a lot of people are not thinking about is that, because think about, back in the day, like 5 years ago, or probably even 2 years ago, when the salespeople and the executives on the sales side, whatever, they start their day by going to a dashboard, right, and looking and seeing where their opportunities are. Now what you can do is you can just ask Copilot questions about that. So I think our whole mindset needs to change. The way that we work on these records and review the data is going to change. And I think that's also going to take a little bit of time, right? Especially for those people that you just mentioned earlier that don't want to have anything to do with it. It's like, oh, Skynet, oh, like, get away from me, right? So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
So okay, this might be the easiest transition. The next question I wanted to ask you is, let's put our dreaming caps on. What do you think Copilot looks like a year and a half, 2 years from now? And like maybe what are some capabilities that you see Copilot doing 2 years from now that it can't do right now? Ways businesses are implementing it a year from now when they aren't now.
So, if I'm looking at some of the stuff that's already, out, well, it's not really out there yet. If we're looking at field service, right? What are some of the biggest complaints that we get from those frontline workers? Constantly searching for stuff and updating stuff, right? So I think they're kind of on the forefront of things because they had the public preview, I think is out right now because I wrote an article about it, where you're basically just telling Copilot, like, look, I did this, I replaced this, and I replaced this, and then I did this. And then Copilot comes back and says, do you want me to update your work order tasks in there? And then you say, you click the ones you want to update, and it's done. So I think that's really where we're going when it comes to CRM systems and customer service systems, where you're just going to ask things by voice, just not asking by typing it in, by just by voice, asking it about different things and asking it to do things like, hey, I'm on the phone with a customer, or I'm on chat with a customer, whatever that might be. Hey, go update this order in my ERP system. Here's the order number. I think that's what we're going. I'm not sure if that's going to be the next like 2 years or something like that, but I really think that we're not going to work the same way that we're doing today.
Yeah.
But who knows, right?
Who knows? You got to throw the disclaimer in there. I I'm buddies and work closely with Adam Piercy. He's an architect at senior architect at
I know
Hitachi
Adam.
Solutions, and
Yes, I know him. He's great.
he's pretty passionate about this concept called invisible CRM. And I mean, Adam eats, sleeps, and breathes sales, and so I think it's especially applicable for sales systems because sales teams in particular are particularly notorious for not maintaining accurate data
Yep.
because they don't feel like it actually helps them sell more. It's just, okay, I need to add this information so that my boss can have their
For the
reports.
executives, right? But this
Exactly.
is
Where,
but this is where Microsoft actually has changed the game a little bit, right? Because what they're trying to do, and they're also kind of positioning it this way, and this is exactly right. A CRM system should not be an administrative tool for your sales guys. A CRM system should tell you what to focus on and what is next, and those types of things. So, and that's where we need to go so that our salespeople can do what they're supposed to be doing, which is selling, right? Not like entering data in a CRM system. But yeah, you're 100% spot on. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
exactly. No, no, that's perfect. And so, like, continuing this concept of invisible CRM, we try to um, you know, make the user experience as best as possible. Maybe we want to integrate some sort of mobile app solution and different things so it doesn't feel like I have to sit down at my desktop and type in all this and automate as much as we can and different things. But now implementing, Copilot, it could almost be something as simple as like you're saying, I'm talking to someone on the phone, in a sense. I'm just like recording what's happening and it's beautifying what I'm saying, and is adding it into the system accordingly and continuing to make the CRM system feel like less and less of a burden and more invisible, right? I'm
Yeah,
sure
and I,
I'm
I
sure I'm
kind of
not
think
doing it
we
justice.
have some of that already with like the Teams recordings, right? If you add Copilot to it, then it's going to give you that recap of that meeting, and it's even going to give you suggestions of like, hey, they mentioned that they're looking to make a decision whether or not to purchase this software by December. And then it's saying like, hey, do you want to update your estimated close date? Or you're talking about the budget, and then they're saying, hey, do you want to update, right, your budget amount? And that's even some of that stuff, also where you're going to be able to upload some sort of document of like, making sure that you're asking certain things and doing certain things during that conversation. And that's already part of the release wave that's like coming now, right? Which is crazy. So
Yeah.
I do think it's going to stay as a co-pilot, right? I usually tell people like Marcus Smith was actually, he's one of the PMs on the customer service side, and he said it so greatly. He said it's more of like almost like an intern that helps you. You know how like you tell your intern like, hey, run this report for me, but then you're still going to check what that person did. So I think that's kind of what Copilot is. It's your helper, it's your intern that can help you with stuff, but you still need to check certain things because it's AI, right? Yeah.
Definitely. And at this state, large language models and everything, and we could probably talk about an hour of about that. But nonetheless, Dion, you mentioned I would love to transition the conversation a little bit and just get to know you and your Dynamics Power Platform pre-sales journey a little bit more.
Sure.
You mentioned you've been pre-sales for 13 years or so now. Before that, you were delivery dynamics for 5 or so years. I mean, what does this journey kind of look like? How'd you first kind of get introduced to the space?
Yeah, by mistake. It's really funny. So I'm originally from the Netherlands. I moved here 20 years ago. Oh my God, it's crazy. I'm so aging myself right now, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So I moved here 20 years ago, and I had no. So I lived in the Netherlands. I went to school. I went to college there. I worked there, but not in the IT space. So I came here, didn't have any IT experience, so I started out in a mailroom. Then from the mailroom, I went to work for a bank in HR. And I knew I wanted to do something else. And I did a lot for that bank also in their HR system. And I've always liked technology like a lot. So then I got laid off in 2008 because of the whole banking shabam, everything that happened then. Started applying for jobs, and I was like, you know what? I always wanted to work in IT, but I just never thought that I could because I didn't have the experience. And then I decided, you know what? If I don't try, it's never going to happen. So I started to applying for jobs. I got two job offers. One was for a VAR, right? And the other one was for an ad agency. They were offering me more money, they were offering me more time off. But I was like, if I really want to do something in IT, I'm going to have to learn, I'm going to have to invest in myself and take the other job. So that's what I ended up doing. I worked there for 3 years or something like that in HR. The marketing girl left. I took on her job as well as kind of helping out the marketing department. It was all great. And then after that, I felt brave enough to go to the COO. And basically, long story short, we had a conversation where I said, like, I would love to do something in IT. And he goes like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I don't know. But he goes like, well, think about it, and then we'll come up with a position for you. So that was amazing by itself. And then the CEO heard about that, and he calls me into his office and he goes like, I hear you're interested in doing something IT. I'm like, yes. He goes like, we want to sell this thing called Dynamic CRM. And do you want to do that? And I was like, I have no idea what that is, but I'm in. So that's kind of how I rolled into it. He sent me to training. I did a boot camp, and it was like, here, go to pre-sales, go to implementation. So I think my implementation bad taste in my mouth was because at two companies, I was the only CRM person. So I did everything from pre-sales to PMing to implementing to customer training. It was the most horrific experience and the best experience in my life, all at the same time, because you learn so much. But it's only you. You don't have anybody else to like bounce your ideas off of. And, am I doing this the right way? There's a lot of stuff that if you're doing this for the first time and there's nobody there to guide you, that you're not doing correctly and you're totally screwing it up. But you know what? It's never a screw up. It's just a learning experience, right? And you have to not be afraid of it and learn from it. I think as soon as you screw something up and step away and say, I'm never going to touch it again, then yeah, that's bad. But if you turn around and say, okay, I learned something out of that. So I learned a lot in those first couple of years. But then and I think I got burnt out because I was the only person there. And I was working like, 16, 17, 18-hour days. It was just really, really crazy. So then I joined RSM 8.5 years ago as pre-sales, and I'm loving it. And the team is amazing. And that's honestly, the people are so incredibly nice that I work with and so talented. And that's obviously why I'm still there after 8.5 years. Yeah, I love it. I'm just very grateful that I was actually given the opportunity to, I did have a BA, I did have a degree, but nothing specifically in, technology. So I'm just very grateful that I was actually offered the opportunity starting in this country in a mailroom, and now being a director and doing this, and on top of that being recognized as an MVP. It's crazy. I
Yeah.
don't know what happens. Yeah, somebody must have been drunk, but it's okay. I'll
No.
take it.
No, it's what's the word? It's perfectly
Crazy.
justified, I guess. And I know no one likes to brag, but I'm sure you're being humble right now. But I wanted to ask you, it's the same question but kind of two different ways. My first question is, what's a piece of advice you would tell yourself when you were, having those conversations when you were debating between your ad agency and getting your foot in the door with IT? Like what's maybe what influenced you, I guess, and some advice you would have for yourself in that time?
Yeah. So I would tell myself not to be so overwhelmed when you're learning new things, because I do totally feel I'm so glad that I made the choice that I did. Even making less at the beginning. Now, obviously, I'm making a lot more than I probably ever would have earned if I would have taken that job at the ad agency. So I think I made the right choice. But um, a lot of times maybe that's also why I got burned out a little bit. I might have burnt out myself. It's completely possible because I always feel like I have to know everything and I have to always have the answers, and of course that's not true. And it's really funny because if somebody else comes to me and says that about themselves, like, oh, I feel this, I'm like, it's not like that at all. It's completely fine to not know everything. Nobody knows everything. Microsoft doesn't even know everything. You know what I mean? So I think that would be one of the things that I would tell myself, like, ease up a little bit. It's completely fine if you don't know anything. And, be ready for the fact that you're never going to stop learning. Some people just don't like that. I actually kind of do. I think that's probably why I am still really enjoying a lot what I do every day, like building out those demos and catching up with the new features and that type of stuff and writing articles about that and doing videos on that. I really enjoy doing that. But in the beginning, I was very overwhelmed. I'm like, what do you mean? There's like new things coming every 6 months, like, and I have to keep track of that. You know what I mean? It was just very, very overwhelming. But I think, and I'm sure you have a similar, experience where at the beginning there's so much to learn. And it's like, oh my God, like I'm never gonna learn everything and know everything, but to just accept that that's okay. So I think
Yeah,
that would be one of the things that I would tell myself. Yeah.
wonderful. What this is maybe a question that's on the spot, but what's a piece of advice that you would have wish you knew 9 years ago, just before you were approaching that burnout, just before you had left kind of that position? Like, what's a piece of advice that you would tell yourself then?
It's yeah, I think it's funny because when I left, doing the implementation stuff, I kind of was like, because again, right, you've learned so much in the past like 5 years. So you don't want to throw away what you've learned. So that was one of the things where I was like, do I really want to go to pre-sales because I don't want to, lose my skills? Or do I want to, because basically when I was talking to the partners at RSM, I was like, well, I kind of want to try pre-sales, but can I go back if I don't like it? And they were like, yeah, of course, whatever you want to do. So I was very worried about that. So I think what I would tell myself is like, you're not going to have the same skills that you did when you were just doing implementations, like however long ago. But you're going to have different skills, right? Because now I can have a conversation with somebody that's less about the actual technical side of it, but more about what we talked about earlier. How is this going to help you and your organization, right? And when I was doing the implementations, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was really thinking about, well,
Yeah,
is this going to make sense? And it has to be configured correctly, and the table structure and everything. And so there's different
yeah.
skills, and that's okay, I think.
How do you
Yeah.
how do you feel that your experience on the implementation side prepared you well for now working on the pre-sale side of the house?
I actually believe that if you don't have implementation experience, that you should not be pre-sales. That's the reason for that is because I have seen several people that did not have that implementation experience, and they're showing stuff that will never work, outside of a demo environment, because you can do a lot of smoke and mirrors. I actually in the beginning had a lot of directors that I was doing the demos for, my sales guys, that were saying, and not necessarily my sales guys, but my implementation director, because we always have one on the call. So when there's an estimate that needs to be made, he knows what I showed. But he was saying like, stop building everything exactly like how it would be, when we're implementing it. You can do something else, We still know that we're not going to build it that way, but that way you're going to be quicker. You're going to be done for a demo quicker, which he was absolutely 100% right. But I'm never going to show something that is not going to work in reality. And sometimes that means I need to talk to somebody else, somebody on my developer team or whatever, right? Because again, I don't know everything. Or when we're talking about integrations, I need to talk to somebody that is more, integration focused. But I think that's really what it is. I think you need to understand the technology and you need to understand anything related to that, right? The tables, the data, the structure, the logic, the way it works out of the box, right? Sales doesn't have a lot out of that. But if you're looking at field service and project ops, there's a lot of stuff. It works this way. And guess what? You can't change it. It just works this way, right?
Sure.
So that's kind of why I kind of feel like anybody who's doing pre-sales kind of needs to have that background, or it's better.
Sure. So
My
you're
opinion. It's
talking
just my
about
opinion. Yeah.
no, that I don't think that's a hot take. I think you're good. So my next question is, you're talking about demos and product demos. What are the, Dion's professional guide, all tips and tricks to a good professional demo for a client, right? What are some things that you try to keep in mind when demoing,
Yeah.
especially, in a pre-sales scenario?
So I went to Demo to Win back in 2011. It's just a little time ago. And I learned so much because, like I said, my earliest demos were like trying to show everything that's there. It's the worst thing you can do. Don't do that, right? Have a conversation with the client or with the prospect beforehand so that you understand what they're trying to do, what's important to them. If they are not interested in Outlook integration for whatever reason, maybe they don't have Outlook, they use pigeons to send each other notes. I don't know. Show them the pigeon integration. No, I'm kidding. Don't show them, but you know what I'm saying? Don't show them the Outlook integration if they're not interested. Don't show them things that are not relevant. Usually, if you know what their pain point is and you demo the solution for that, usually that's you winning the deal, right? If we're not even talking about like them having the money and you're talking to the right person, if all of that is cleared out, if that's what you do, you will win. The other thing that I would say is use data that's relevant to them. If you're doing a field service demo for a company that works with HVAC units, installations, and fixing them up and stuff like that, don't show them stuff about a construction company. I would never show field service probably for a construction company anyways, but you know what I'm saying? Or, if you're demoing for an HVAC company, you're not going to show, this is a company that's, putting in these Xfinity things, you know what I mean? So you can watch TV. It doesn't make any sense. The other thing is like try to do a dry run with your customer, with some of the key stakeholders, and they can tell you, you know what? Nobody's going to like this. So leave that out. This is going to be good. Right. So really those types of things I think have really made me successful. And again, all of that stuff is all coming from Demo to Win and all the stuff that they kind of tell you to do. So
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I mean, how do you what are some even like soft skills necessarily that you might try to bring into those, like, I mean, how do you find the balance between, like, actually, you know what? No, I have a different question. And I'd rather ask this. What do you do when you're demoing something and for whatever reason, something in the demo environment, it was working yesterday, but it's being funny and isn't working in the demo? Have you ever had that
yep,
scenario where something wasn't working in the demo?
yep.
What do you
You
do in those
immediately skip
situations?
over
How do
it.
you?
You immediately skip over it. You do not try it a second time, because if you try it a second time, now you're focusing on the fact that something is not working. If you immediately move on, nobody probably even noticed that something wasn't working. And they don't know.
So what do you mean, like you weren't even speaking on it yet? You're just gonna kind of act like nothing happened and nobody saw it. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
it's really kind of like you're saying again. So I've seen demos where, somebody tried to create a work order and for whatever reason, well, I know what the reason was, but for whatever reason, it would not create that work order. It would just error out. So the person kept clicking on the button. for like 5 minutes and error, error, error. So now all that everybody's going to remember is that it's not working, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of, I don't want to go as far as you lost the deal, but you left a very bad impression in your customer's mouth. The other thing that I also do is I usually try to have records set up already so that if I can't create a record, I can just pull up another one that I did already. I also always make sure that I have a lot of tabs open. I've seen demos where people were, they're logging in or they're trying to show a Power BI report and they're navigating the Power BI report and it's loading and it's loading and it's loading and it's loading. Now your customer thinks like, why would I buy this? Because it takes forever to load. While if you have it open on another tab already, right, it's right there and you're done. It's there. And lastly, I always do multiple run throughs myself, even the day of. Very important the day of, because a lot of times in those CSP environments, something could break. Or somebody else could be in your demo environment and they did something. So it's always good to do that as well. I try to do it like 2 hours before I actually do the demo, kind of clicking everywhere to make sure that everything you're going to be showing is working. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not necessarily in pre-sales, but we do a fair amount of demos when we built something and tested it, and now it's time to hand it off to the client for them
Yep.
to validate and test, right? So I find that for myself, maybe people I work with would disagree, but I like to take pride in my demos. I like to think I give better demos than maybe other people. Will McClendon, if you're listening, shout out. I think you taught me well. But nonetheless, I do think that having multiple tabs is the way to go. And like, say I'm demoing a feature we added to the account form. I'm gonna have a tab with an account record pulled up, and then from
Yep.
our next PBI, generally I kind of do it by PBI, so to speak. So then the next PBI, just go to the next tab. I'm already looking at opportunities or whatever now, right? Or I'm already have the form filled out. All I need to do is click save to create the record and different things. So
Exactly. They're not
yeah,
waiting for you. It's not an interesting demo if they're
yeah,
watching you type and fill out a freaking form. It's not interesting. And I have to tell you, most of my demos, I don't create one record, not one. I'm
yeah,
just showing them the screens and I'm clicking some buttons. There's also some scripts that you can use, right? And then you just hit a button on your keyboard and it will type it out for you. I use that a lot as well if I'm doing like Copilot Studio where I'm like chatting with a bot, right? So that way I'm not distracted because I'm typing something incorrectly. It saves on time. It just flows better. Yeah, so those are all the little ticks and
yeah,
tips and tricks that you can kind of utilize when you're doing those demos. But 100% on the tabs. Oh, 100%. It's so painful to like, watch somebody log in and it's just
yeah,
going and going.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like,
my favorite part is I don't know. Maybe it shouldn't be my favorite part, but like we oftentimes will try to let the customer demo as well. Demo some features, and not always us demoing them. And sometimes I think it's clear. It's like, oh, you need to fill out this required field. You need to fill this out still. Whatever, and different
yeah.
things. But that shouldn't be my favorite part. I take that back. But nonetheless, sometimes I guess it just makes me feel better because my demo that didn't happen, but it'll get me next time. Watch.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Awesome. Well, Dion, thank you for being here. I love to transition us, kind of kick our feet up, transition us to the after hours happy hour, and talk about anything and everything outside of work. I saw your dog sneak onto your lap here a couple minutes
Yeah.
ago, and I mean, you can't. I mean, it's in a lot of your YouTube videos and the thumbnails and everything. You're definitely a dog mom there.
Oh
Would you like to
yeah.
share?
I was a little worried about him yesterday because I took him to the vet to get his, annual vaccinations, and then he was very lethargic and like he's like my little paw is hurting. So I don't know. It was like they were like really kind of yanking on his paws too. So I'm like, what's happening there? But he's feeling a lot better today, thank God. He always has to sit on my lap, and I'm in Florida where we only have two temperatures, that's hot and extreme hot, right? So it's not the best having the dog in your lap. But yeah, he's kind of my little co-star, right, in my videos. So I'm always trying to kind of involve him with that as well. He's just not always up to it. So my
So
last
fun.
video, my video that actually, I think it was, what is today? Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday? I have no
Today's
idea.
Tuesday of recording. Yeah.
Tuesday. Okay, yeah. So today I published a video where he was not really into getting in on the picture, so I was like, okay, let's just leave him out of it. But yeah, he's a super sweet guy. So sweet. Oh my
Super fun.
goodness.
Does he just kind of stay by your feet all day down there?
Oh, he's on my lap right now.
Oh wow, very cool.
He has to sleep on my lap the entire day, and I'm like sweating because it's so
Yeah.
warm right now. But it's okay. He's super sweet. Yeah, he's a mini poodle mix. I actually adopted him because they put him in a kill shelter when he was 6 months old. It's crazy,
Mm.
right, people? Yeah. So, but then I was able to find him, and yeah, we've been together ever since. That was just when Corona was going on for like six.
2020.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. I adopted him on 10/10/2020. It's easy to remember. So,
There you go.
yeah. What about you? Do you have
Very
dogs?
cool. I personally don't. My parents do. And
Aw.
her name is Zoe. We call her the Zoe Puppers. She's a rescue pit bull as well. So she's a
Aw.
sweetie. She's a sweetie. She's the if returning guests. I'm at a different location. I'm actually vacationing with my parents, but she didn't
Nice.
make her way into the background at all during the video.
Aw.
So but yeah, she's sweet. She's a lover. She only has she has two speeds, right? And it's like sleeping or Mach 9, just sprinting, as fast as you possibly can. We call it the zoomies,
I
but
love that though when they do that.
she's
It's
the
so cute.
sweetest. Yeah,
That's so. How old is she?
so we're not sure because she's a
She's
rescue, but
adopted.
we
Yeah, yeah.
think she's probably about 8 or 9 years old. We had gotten
Aw,
her about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, so just before
aw.
COVID, we had
That's
gotten
so.
her. So
Also a COVID baby. Yeah, this guy's too.
yeah,
But we
and so
didn't return
she's
ours, right? So.
yeah, so she's super sweet. She's the best, the Zoe pups. I also, I guess, just wanted to
Cute.
ask you last couple minutes here. What do you enjoy about creating content on YouTube? What's kind of your process look like? How do you keep the creative inspiration flowing? How do you do all that?
Yeah, it's so people who are visiting my channel regularly know that in the beginning, what I ended up doing, well, first, I wasn't on camera at all. I just had like a PowerPoint of the stuff that I was going to talk about, and then I did the, screen recording. Then people were like, "You should like record yourself." I'm like, "Really? Yeah, you should record yourself." Okay. So then I started doing that, but then still, my background was so I did buy a green screen, but my background was my slide. So I did a lot of those. Then I was like, and I always love watching other people in the community as well. So one of my favorites is also a really dear friend of mine. Her name is Lisa Crosby. She's in Australia. I love her. We really became such good friends as well. And I always watch her videos because they're just so good, right? And like I said, because her videos were so good, I was like, you know what? I really need to step up my game and trying to like, do some more and like make it a little bit more professional because hers are so good. And other people as well. Like I said, Scott Durow and April Dunham, and there's so many great people and Daniel as well. Laskovich, he's also a Dutchie like me. They're doing all such great jobs. So I was like, okay, I gotta try to do something else. And I was like, what if I can make my videos more of like a newsroom type of thing, right? That's fun. So I started kind of playing around with that. I was able to find some backgrounds online that you could download. So, and then I did my first one, and I did the like breaking news, and it was actually for the release notes. I forgot which one it was, like last year or the year before, probably last year, because I haven't been doing these for such a long time. But it's a lot more work. Like it is a lot more work, but I really like it because I kind of feel like it's like I said, it's more of like almost like a broadcast of a news episode. And then I always have a slide next to me And then when I'm doing a demo, that kind of then like fills the screen and then you go into the demo. So I really kind of like how that's going. It's just I did not realize it was going to be so much more work. But now I feel like I don't want to go back to the old ways because that now feels kind of old and don't want to go back there. So
For sure.
yeah, but I think I get a lot of inspiration from, just watching other people and seeing, how they present. And whenever I watch a video from anybody, it doesn't matter, even if it's a new person that just posted their first video, I always learn something, by just looking at other people and seeing what they're doing and the way that they're presenting. And that's also what I love about going to these live sessions, these in-person sessions at the conferences, because you just, even if you don't learn anything about the content that they're presenting, you're going to learn a lot about presenting itself and how they present it. It's like, oh wow, that's really, really cool how that person did that. So I kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Awesome.
Cool
Well,
stuff.
Dion, thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome getting to know you and to talk
Yeah.
to you. If people wanted to connect with you in any way, what would be the best way to do that?
I think just find me on LinkedIn. I'm an open networker, which means if you send me a connection request, I will definitely connect with you. Check out my website as well, D365Goddess.com. There's an email address on my website. If you want to email me, you can get in touch with me via that as well. And then, of course, you can follow me on Twitter as well at D365 Goddess as well. So just putting a little bit of
Perfect.
marketing
Yeah,
in there.
absolutely. Yeah, I will have all of that stuff linked down in the description down below.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you again for being here. This has been
Yeah.
great. Like I
Thank you
said,
for
you've been
having me.
awesome getting to talk to and getting to know. So
Right back at you.
thank you to you for sticking to end the video. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer channel, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.